what's most amazing to me is that Deacon Braxton walks amongst us daily. And I just thought, even talking to my son, I go, man, you have history among you, and you don't even know it. So I won't get into the millennial and saying what's this and they're not this, because I've got a millennial, and I know many of you have your challenges with your children, as I've shared often of my own. But we should often take a minute just to reflect back on those who led the way, who have paid in sweat, tears, and being called out of their name, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, the present's good, but it is good to look back on it. So with that said, I turn the floor over to Chauncey and ask our senior leaders to share some wisdom with us.
First off, before we even get started, I just want to thank both of you for volunteering your time to come out and just sprinkle a couple of seeds on us so that they can grow within us, because you all have lived a tremendous life. You've had the journey that a lot of us have yet to even trek down that road. So I want to give thanks to both of you, and thanks to Deacon Braxton in his absence as well, and just bless you and just truly give thanks. Let's just go ahead and start off with the round of applause. So this isn't necessarily going to be like the type of discussion where questions are coming from the floor. The questions have already been asked or already been briefed. I'm pretty much just really going to be a conversation between the three of us. They're just kind of listening. So, of course, you feel free to react, but we're trying to keep comments to the minimum so that we can try to make sure that they have enough time to sprinkle as much wisdom on us as possible in the short amount of time that we have. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Fair.
So just in your titles alone, Deacon Smiley, Deacon Picket, you're already spiritual leaders. So just in the title, we just want to make sure that we recognize that you've come a long way already in your lives. So before we go any further, just for the people who may not know you, or some who have known you but not know as much about you, let's start off with a little bit of history about yourself. If you don't mind, I'll start with you, Deacon Picket. You can tell us your age, where you were born, where you were raised, if that's the same place, and your parents. And then we'll go to wife, kids, and career after that. But we can start off with the easy stuff: age, where you were born, where you were raised, and your relationship with your parents.
I'm Charles Picket. Most of my family and friends, they just call me Charlie, which doesn't bother me. I'm 83 years old. End of this month, I'll have the privilege of being married to the same lady for 61 years. I'm the third generation to live here in Manassas on the same property. My grandfather, my father, now me, and my daughter grew up on the same property. There are 4 generations of us, from me, my parents, my grandparents, and great-grandparents here in Manassas. 3 generations in the same cemetery, including the extended portion of my family. There are 7 generations of us that are either living or deceased members of my family here in Manassas. I've spent my entire life here. I graduated from high school in '55. I joined First Baptist in 1955. I say I'm married with 1 daughter, 2 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. My parents, my father, but my mother lived off of Linton Hall Road, so basically all of us, for the most part, Manassas people.
Thank you. Deacon Smiley, same questions. Age, where you were born, where you were raised, parents, wife, kids.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity, and I guess I have to be the baby of the group here. probably by default, but I'm a 71-year-old baby. Actually, I was born in Alabama, down around Selma, Alabama, actually out from Selma in a little town called Sardis, Alabama. And I lived with my great-grandmother because when my mother got ready to leave to go to Mobile, my great-grandmother would not allow her to take me with her because she felt like she could do more for me and take care of me at that particular time in support of my mother, who was leaving to try and make a way of life for herself. So that's where I stayed until I was 16 years old. Fast forward a little bit, I am married. I've been married for 43 years now. Amen. I have a daughter, a granddaughter, and I'm a great-grandfather to be. So I count it all a blessing. Count it all a blessing. I have military experience. I've been in the Air Force, came out of the Air Force, Army Corps of Engineers, spent some time there in soil design engineering. I don't talk about a lot when I'm speaking of things that I've done, even education-wise, because it's not me. It's what God has done for me and what He has allowed me to do. So I never get into I mine, because I realize that this walk, someone was leading me all the way. And that was God. Amen. So, with that said, after the time with the Army Corps of Engineers, I was doing a lot of travel, and my wife found a way to keep me home. She was talking to some individuals at the office that she worked in, and there were some positions that were open with U.S. Customs at the time. And she talked me into putting in a position there with them, and I became a customs officer and for years, and then I went up the chain to becoming one of their criminal investigators, on up into the senior managerial ranks there. So that was a blessing in itself. I've been blessed with the opportunity to do many, many things. But the one thing that I look back on and say, from the cotton fields to Capitol Hill, and I didn't go to Capitol Hill as a visitor nor to sightsee. God blessed me to go up there for the purpose of congressional testimony. When I say cotton fields, that means I have picked cotton. I came up. I pulled the sack. I know what it's like. We didn't have a farm. My great-grandmother couldn't afford one, but there were farmlands around. We'll go out. It takes an awful lot of cotton to make a quarter or 50 cents. As my age, I was lucky, and it was like a penny a pound at that time. So I have no complaints about where I've been, what I have done, nor where I am today. It's all a blessing. It's all what God has done for me. And I was grounded by my great-grandmother. When I got ready to leave, or even before I left, she sent me on with my mother. She said, there's two things I want you to do. Learn how to cook yourself some food and to wash and iron your clothes in case you have to take care of yourself someday. Those are some of the basics of life. So the things that you see and hear me do is because of my Lord and my Savior. Man. And I hope I didn't miss anything out. If I did, just ask me the question.
So we can establish that pace, I'm pretty much going to let you have the run of the floor until you feel like you're ready to stop. I'll take a cue from you. You can just keep going, because we just want to pick it up. We sitting on the porch, drinking some sun tea and enjoying it. Did you have anything you want to add to that first piece that you may have thought of afterwards, before I go to the next question?
No, as Brother Smiley said, I was drafted in the Army in 59.
Drafted.
Yeah. I tell a joke. I thought about being a Republican, but I got a letter from Eisenhower, and it was in December. And when I opened it, greetings from the president. I said, but look, Eisenhower sending me a Christmas card. But when I read on down a little further, I said, no, this is anything but a Christmas card. So I went in January of '59, and I stayed to December of '60. Took my base at Fort Jackson, Columbia, South Carolina, advanced infantry, Fort Jackson. Then it was in June or July. They sent me from Fort Jackson, South Carolina, to Fairbanks, Alaska. And that's where I spent the rest of, because I was drafted, I was only in for 2 years. So I spent the rest of my tour there. I kind of lucked out in a way. There was some people in my company that had one strike the day I left home. I got my one strike, they still had their one. I got two, and they still had their one. It was simply because of the fact, infantry, those of you been in it, a lot of times we go out and run around, play war games in the bush, come back with your boots all dusty and things, the rifle dirty. And when we come back in the company, we'd have like an hour and a half for lunch. So some of them lay up on the bed, but I would take my rifle, clean the bore out, had a shaving brush, brush it up, polish my shoes up again. We're going back to do the same thing. But the sergeants and officers notice that. When you go back out, you fall out in rank, and they walk, check your rifle. Only 2 people in the platoon got shoe polish. Well, I wouldn't say anything, but I kind of smiled. I'd be one of the 2. And in little less than 18 months, I got my second strike. And like I say, there were those that, and a lot of them, well, was in for at least 3 years, they never got the second strike. So I kind of lucked out a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you. So the next question that we have, growing up, we all have heroes or role models that we look up to. It could be your father, it could be a gentleman in the neighborhood, it could be your grandmother, it could be any family member or friend or a role model that you've seen in the community. Starting with you, Deacon Smiley, who was your role model growing up?
Yeah, my grandmother would be my role model. She taught me everything she could, even without an education herself. She taught me through scripture, even though she could not read, she could give those scriptures. And I would actually go and try to find out where is she getting this from, because she can't read. How does she know? How is it that she knows this? But God has a way of doing things. Amen. And he laid that path for me. And I'm grateful for that. She is my role model.
Thank you. Same question, Deacon Picket.
My father. My father, I don't remember having 2 jobs. Both of them were dealing, the first one I remember having, he was driving a milk truck, used to go around to the farms, pick up milk in 10-gallon milk cans, take to Washington, at a couple of different dairies, whichever one the farmers dealt with, and dropped them off so the milk could be processed. The second job, well, I think he was working like $18 a week, 7 days a week, no benefits. He left there and went driving a milk truck, taking milk to Quantico to the Marines. Well, that one paid a little more. But my father never was a person to come home in the evening, sit out under the shade tree. He would, back that time, he had horses. He would go out after he got home, because he got home early. He would go out plowing up people's gardens and doing different things. And I can remember as a child, my mother telling the road down past the house was gravel. The child, this is summertime, the dark. Go around the house, listen, see if you can hear your father coming. I go around and listen, couldn't hear the wagon. But he did that to take care of his family. None of us can, in my family, can honestly say we went to bed hungry. My father was fortunate. He had 5 acres of land. We used to raise our own pork, our own beef, our own chickens. And my mother never did work outside the home. She always stayed home. She maintained the house, took care of the family, and Daddy was the one that worked outside. And my father was fairly successful. He went to the 6th grade, then he went to work. In the First World War, he was drafted. He spent a couple of years in the Army, but he came back home and married, and there's 5 of us. Actually, it was 7. 2 babies died. But overall, we had to work, yeah. I guess that's why today I still work. I work 3 days a week now, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays. I used to work 4 after I had surgery. I cut back to 3.
Thank you. I can definitely see how that's played a role in your relationship with your father and your relationship with your grandmother as well. That's amazing to have role models that couldn't read or just went to the 6th grade and do well for themselves, and then have sons and grandsons like you to turn out the way that you are, and now you're leading the way for all of us. Just a really amazing story. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, but still stay in the same vein. We talked about your grandmother knowing Bible verses,
Right.
and being able to tell you different Bible verses, but she couldn't read,
Right.
which is amazing. So I'm going to start with you, Deacon Picket. What's your favorite Bible verse, and do you remember being saved?
I was baptized here in the sanctuary upstairs on 4th Sunday in April 1955. Back then, we had baptismal, then the service would be after baptism. And Reverend James Douglas, he was a pastor of First Baptist Church in Vienna, was carrying on revival. I came on a Thursday night and opened the doors to church. Back then they was asked all those are not saved, not church, to stand. Well, I stood. He called me up, asked was I ready to join church. Now this is Thursday. Revival in Friday night. I told him no. Will you come back tomorrow night? I told him yeah. Because I'm going to tell you no again. I got out of my seat. He called me up. I got out of my seat. I was sitting about midway in the center aisle in the sanctuary. He called me up. He's going to hear no again. But somewhere, from the time I got up with the note, when he asked me to join, I told him yes, and it's been a good trip.
Outstanding. Which Bible verse would you like to leave us with?
I like the 23rd Psalm.
Amen.
Okay.
But also like the 6th verse of the 150th Psalm. See, everything that has breath, praise the Lord.
Amen.
Praise ye the Lord. Because everything that breathes, as one of the songs that, I don't know the exact title and all the words, but it has something about let the robins singing and flying. If the robin can praise him, we can too.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Thank you. Deacon Smiley, same question. Do you remember being saved and a Bible verse that you'd like to leave us with?
Well, I accepted the Lord at an early age. It was in the 50s. Obviously, he had the privilege of being baptized indoors. My baptism was outside in a live stream because they would dam off and make a space so that the water would be deep enough for those that accepted Christ, and it was time for baptism to be baptized in that. So running water is a pleasure for a psalm and a privilege, but throughout my household in my early life, I didn't have indoor plumbing. We had a well. That's where the water came from. And if the well went dry, then I had to walk down under the hill to a live stream. And we called it a spring. That's where we would get our water from and walk it back up to the house in bucket. So when you think of life, and I hear people talking about streets and that and so on and lights, there were no streets, no lights. There was a road. The nearest person was like at least a quarter mile away. So there were no real next door neighbors, so to speak. Schooling had to go at least probably 20, 15 or so miles to take the bus there. Obviously to church, the same thing. Once a month, when we could make it, it was every fourth Sunday we would go. Now in between that, there was a missionary that would come from the town of Selma out, which was about 20 miles away, and on some Saturday, and he would have some clothing in his little car to pass out. So that's why one of my slogans is, I used to receive hand-me-downs as a child, but God is still handing me down blessings because those were blessings too. And we would go there, we would have the Bible study there on those Saturdays, and then he would give us some clothes. We were in high cotton then. So back to this, accepting Christ, yes. At a very early age, yes. Growing in the church, yes. It was always there in some form or some fashion. And through the blessings of God, he allowed me to stay on the path that he had set for me, and to realize that all of these things, it was not about me, but it's what he was doing for me, and I wanted to recognize that. And the Bible verse, Psalm 27:1. The Lord is my light, amen, and my salvation. Whom shall I be? It's all about him. Amen. He's your light. He's your salvation. He is going to see you through. Don't depend on man, not 100%. Man can and will fail at some point in time. But we know that God will not fail. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So we have a couple topics that we regularly talk about at men's ministry meetings, and while we we kind of keep it a little real, if you will. But it's a topic that all of us face in regards to our marriage, in regards to our children. Mm-hmm. So both of you have been married for a fair number of years, easy to say. I mean, you got 61 years, you got 43 years. I think that's veteran status. I mean, that's like 5-star general marriage status right there. But the question that I have that I'm going to put on the table is, what have you learned in your marriage over all these years that has proven to be the most successful and a key contributor to the longevity of your marriage? And I'll start with you, Deacon Smiley. What has been the key factor to the longevity of your marriage?
Trust in my wife, knowing that whatever commitments I made, it was for them. She would support me and whatever, and she would respect. Respect is another. Have to give her respect. We respect one another, she gives me respect. And that is key to that relationship building. Respect your mate. There is no greater friend than the one that you are with, you are building with. Trust them. Listen to them. Hear them when they speak. And as your relationship grows, you will hear them when they don't speak, because you have learned that person. They are learning you. And it's not about the words that come out all the time. We respect one another. She gives me respect. And that is key to that relationship building. Respect your mate. There is no greater friend than the one that you are with, you are building with. Trust them. Listen to them. Hear them when they speak. And as your relationship grows, you will hear them when they don't speak, because you have learned that person. They are learning you. And it's not about the words that come out all the time. Your actions will speak. And they are greater in most cases than those words. So,
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Same question.
As Deacon Smiley said, trust. I've worked as a custodian for 27 years in the school. My shift when school was going on was 3 in the evening to 11 at night. In later years, I got some help, and I kind of slacked off a little bit, let the help do more work, because at the amount of work I used to do, if I did that much work, the help wouldn't be doing anything. There would be times, like if a revival was going on, I'd go to work, be there at 3, I'd be back home at 7. And my wife never questioned me, because she knew I'd be back. I finished my job, and she knew I'd be back. Strangely enough, it's been quite some years ago, we don't know who it was. Some lady decided she wanted to call my house and ask for me. So this went on a couple of days, sometimes twice a day. I think even as many as 3 times a day. And my wife got so she would tell me, your girlfriend called. That's what did she say? Just ask for me. I said, listen, if somebody's got 2 things they don't know what to do with, They got a telephone, they don't know what to do with it, and they got time. They don't know what to do with neither one of them. I said, be nice to her. She wants you to holler, who are you? Why are you calling my husband? Leave my husband alone. I said, if you do that, she wins. Be nice to her and beat her at her own game. Well, this went on, I guess, probably more than a month. But one day, she called, and I was home. And after I answered the telephone, and she said, oh yes, he's right here. Hold on just a second. I thought maybe the school was calling me and coming to work early. And she said, it's that woman. And I'd already made my mind up. If you ask me to guess who it is, I'm not playing no games with you. You don't tell me, I'll hang up. This is the way the conversation went. Hello? What happened? I said, she hung up on me. And just on the light side, I said, well, I guess it's one of my old girlfriends. She didn't want to hear my voice. She'll be all right now for another 25 years. It's trust. I mean, like I say, she never asked me, well, I know you can get off of work early. Are you staying at work? No, she never questioned. I never gave it a reason to question.
Trust is definitely a key factor. Deacon Smiley, did you have anything you thought of that you may have wanted to add?
I can always think of something, but I think I covered most of the areas.
So I guess this is probably going to be the final question of the conversation. I'm sure we all have a ton of questions. One of the other topics that we talk about in men's ministry a fair amount is adult children. Mm-hmm. We talk about adult children and your relationship with your children. So what has been the biggest change / or challenge in your relationship with your children when they were young compared to now? And I'm going to start with Deacon Picket.
Well, I always say, when my daughter said, Daddy, you know I'm your only child, I do two things. I grab my watch and I grab my wallet. We have a very, very good relationship. Not only with, my children, my grandchildren. Sometimes people ask, where does she live? Does she live close? I say, yes, 2. But actually, 30 years ago, her husband decided he didn't want to live there anymore. He left. Through no thanks, no credit to me, but to my parents. We had decided, well, I wanted to build a house on some land that I had purchased, right next to me. But the zoning wouldn't let me do it. All right, so my mother told me, Charlie, you got land, you can't do anything with it. Sell some of the field. So I sold some of the field and took the money and bought a house. Well, in the meantime, he decided he didn't want to live there anymore. But she didn't know anything about me trying to get a house on the land where I own. I never said anything to her about it. He'd gone, and I guess he'd been gone about 5 or 6 months. One day, the realtor was at the Senate. We think we found a house that we like, that you may like. Would you want to go see? Oh yes, she was ready to go. So we showed her the house, and she looked at it. I like it. I think she looked in every door and every under the sink. I think she checked out every door there. And so we told her, Sandy, why don't you call the realtor by his name? And she did not know what was going on until he told her that we were buying a house. Well, when the husband moved out, he decided he wanted to take the living room furniture and the dining room furniture Okay, I was, yeah, a little upset because I had made some payments on it myself, keep them from losing. But, you know, I may say something to one of you all today, and you say, I should have hit him for saying that to me. But you wait till next week, and you look back at the same situation, you say, no, I'm glad I didn't even bother to hit him. Let him go on, you know, act his way. Well, we showed at the house that morning, and that evening, we went to the furniture store, and it was a local store here, and I told the man, I sold some land, we're buying a house for my daughter. I do not have the money right now to pay it. I got some money coming in. Can I get some furniture for my daughter? And his reply was, Picket, if it's in this store and you want it, it's yours. He could have told me, well, you're gonna have to put up $100 or something. I never put 1 penny on it. But when I got the remainder of the money, I got it, we'll say for instance on a Tuesday. I had to go past the school where I worked. I came back and worked Tuesday. Wednesday, I went to the bank. And on my way home, I stopped in this store. I told him, I think I owe you some money. I'd like to settle with you. Gave me money in cash money. And he told me on the way out, Picket, anytime you want anything else, come on back. And so it would have been a little more difficult if we had like 5 or 6 children, because you couldn't treat this one on one scale and others on a lesser scale. But one, you can do things sometimes a little bit different. And so we try to take care of her. And she's been very, very appreciative of it.
Thank you. Deacon Smiley.
As far as my daughter and her education and bringing her up, the thing that I try to do is to allow her anyway, to be herself. I try to pay attention to her interests. I try to pay attention to how she reacted towards certain things, what was she drawn to. She started working before she got out of high school in the medical office where my wife worked, and she always said she wanted to go into dentistry. But when she started working at the doctor's office, which was a hematology oncology group, and she started out filing really, and then she got into the lab, took an interest in that. She started the lab work, and from there she took an interest in then the full nursing aspect of it, not just behind the scene lab there. But I say that to say this, in that I never tried to sway her to be this person, to be that person because of a title. Because I would feel very, very bad knowing that she was doing something because I wanted her to do it, and it was not in her heart for her to do. So from that early age on, even when she was getting into college, I just kind of let her pick and choose a little bit. Well, early on, letting her pick and choose a little bit. She was taking her time about getting into school, so she didn't get it. She was thinking about going to, I think it was Howard, at that school, but she didn't get it there because she didn't get her paperwork in time. And actually it turned out to be a blessing, because it allowed her to not only continue to work there, but also at the office where she was in, she started taking classes at Nova. And obviously, I guess she felt like I'm here, so I don't really need to do a lot of hard work right now to work. So things were getting skimpy there as far as the grade. And when it didn't work out the way we thought it should, my wife and I sat her down and told her, look, you're working. You done wasted this money. Now it's going to cost you something. And she understood. She started paying her way on that. And from that on, it took her through a change of dramatic growth. She started to understand, started to pay more attention to, and she now starting where she did from just the clerical aspect of it. She, and God willing, this spring she will be graduating for her NP. So she has done, he has blessed her to do quite well in that. But I applaud her, never been disrespectful at all. Never did give us any real trouble. We had a lot of worries and concerns. Lord knows. But I never had to really show the meanness in me. I can say that. Because I think I could get pretty ugly with it if I had to. And my wife knows that. So she would always try to be the peacekeeper there. Yeah, be that buffer there. Because I did not play around when it came to certain things.
Amen.
But my wife knew it. She did too, but she tended to want to, trying to test me sometimes. But now she has the utmost, I can say she really does. Everything, my dad. And last year, she was fortunate enough to adopt, which I have another grandbaby. It's 3 years, not quite 3 years old yet. But when the baby started to learn how to utilize the hand, she wanted the baby to be left-handed because I write. And I tell her, I said, let her be what she wants to be. But I knew what she was doing. She was trying to get the baby to be left-handed because Daddy writes with his left, and that's all I do with my left hand is write with it. Everything else I do it with my right hand. And right now the baby's kind of confused because sometimes she's working the left hand, sometimes the right hand. And I know it will go into whatever she develops to be, and I'm good with it. But I say that to say this: when you realize that your kid has an element of respect for you and is really paying attention to you, what you do and how you do, without even saying it, that's an honor in itself. Amen. To know that they respect you that much.
Amen. Amen. So we're pretty much coming to the end, and I don't have any more questions, but what I will ask of each of you is to leave, I guess, a final thought or a gem for the men present in the room, a gem that has helped you along the way in your journey, whether it be through your spirit, your faith, whether it be with your relationship with your wife, whether it be your relationship with your adult kids. Any final gems or anything that you want to leave us with, and I'll start with Deacon Picket.
As I said earlier, I've always lived home with my parents. And even while I was in the service, I didn't have to worry about was there any food in the house, was there any heat in the house. I left her there with my parents. And to me, that was one of the greatest reliefs on my mind that I could have. Like I say, I was drafted. If I hadn't been drafted, I wouldn't have gone in. But life is like a wheel. My parents helped me while I was in the service, after I got out. My mother, some of you probably remember, still remember my mother. She was almost 102 when she passed. Over the years, one time she fell and broke her hip. My wife didn't work. So when Mama came out the hospital, It wasn't in the question, can she go with you, can she go with you, or who can look after her? Mom came home, and my wife and I, we cared for our mother. We did the very, very best that we could do. I'm very proud of my wife, the love, care, and attention that she showed my mother.
So once you get that squared away, we're gonna have the same question.
Come on, dude.
Any final comments or thoughts that you want to leave the men's ministry as we close out today?
Tell my wife she'll get me for that. Always answer her. That's my thought. I meant to put that off earlier, but I'm sorry. Anyway, I would just like to say that I hope that I have given you just a little bit of glimpse into my background. There was a lot there that I didn't talk about. From walking the Edmonds Pettus Bridge, from Green Street Baptist Church, where Dr. Martin Luther King. I think that one of the profound things in my life were the words that he spoke, because to me, those were true God-given messages to us. And the other thing is when President Obama became president, that was another element there. It wasn't about the man himself, but that God had placed this person. The results of what we saw from Dr. King days to the presidency of Obama. Be true to yourself. Be true to your family. True to your family. And above all, be true to God. I believe that's the best I can give you.
Amen.
Amen.
I'm not sure about everybody else here, but I know I've been blessed today.
Amen.
Amen. And I think this is definitely something that the men's ministry definitely wants to keep up, because this has been a great start to having a panel discussion with our elders. And I'm sure there are other elders amongst us who we can definitely gain other knowledge from as well. So don't feel safe. Y'all know who you are. But we do want to leave you with a token of our appreciation. I know that it may not be up to your standards, but at the same time, we humbly give these to you in appreciation for your discussion and sharing your wisdom with us today. And at this point, I turn it back over to Tina.
Brother, thanks. I enjoyed being here with you. Thanks a lot.